basically stopped recording. I hope you can see me properly. Just need to fix it so it looks properly. Yeah, I'll just restart on the last point. So this is probably gonna be the most difficult thing about studying architecture at Wits, and it's the transition from high school to university. That's the hardest part. If I'm looking down, just know that I'm working. I have a project which I'm already working on, so this degree doesn't have a lot of time, so I'm gonna try and help you while also helping myself with the work. Like, one thing I realized about high school is that you basically learn information which is quite useless. Not useless, I mean, they do teach you skills of how to learn things and how to speak, of course. Like, English is probably quite a useful subject, even though you don't understand why. You learn about nouns and onomatopoeia and alliteration and whatever, but it plays a role in the language you speak and everything, and can help you through university. But for the most part, a lot of the information that you learn in high school is quite useless. I'm not gonna lie to you. And the approaches most people, including myself, for a lot of things, unless I was really interested in a subject, was let me just memorize this information so I can just paste it into the exam paper, and you actually weren't really learning that much. And in university it's different. You can't just memorize things for the sake of not actually knowing what's going on. You really need to understand the theory. Like, it's actually probably going to be the first time where you're going to learn something, and you need to know it because it's probably going to be your profession for the rest of your life, unless you decide to switch to something else in your career. If you're already studying architecture at Wits, if you're already a first year, I'm sure you've already gotten your schedule, so you don't really need to see this part. You can skip to the next section. So the day in the life of studying architecture, it really depends. Some days you have lectures at 8 o'clock in the morning, some days you have lectures at 10:15. My latest day is at 2:15 for God knows what reason. I wish I had an earlier lecture on Tuesday, but whatever. So normally the first thing in every day is a lecture, and it's basically theory. But the nice thing about architecture is you're not going to get tested on the theory which you do. It's basically about understanding the concept of what you're dealing with, or understanding the subject which you're dealing with, understanding the history or why we do things the way we do. And that also gives you much more insight when it comes to how you're going to approach your design project. And after our lecture, we might move on to a tutorial if you have something like design or building ecology or something else, or critical thinking. You might have a tutorial about basically understanding the content which you had in the lecture. Then after the tutorial, mainly for design and construction, but other courses like history or whatever also include this sort of thing, you have a crit. So crit is basically you having a one-on-one session with your lecturer. Sometimes not even one-on-one, sometimes it's with the whole class, where you share what you've done, you share your work with people, and the lecturer will critically assess your work or give you constructive criticism of what you could do better. Sometimes they even get your classmates to actually give you advice on what you could do better. Maybe you're stuck on a problem. Like, basically this project which I've been working on has been so confusing for me, and you can't really think of everything on your own. So sometimes if you ask your friend, what do you think of this idea, and they'll probably give you a different perspective which could help you in continuing with the project and not being stuck. Yeah, so after the crit you can basically go home. Normally between the tutorial and the crit, or between the lecture and the crit, you have a break or lunchtime. And it's not like high school where you need to ask your teacher to go to the bathroom. It's not like anything stupid like that. You have so much more freedom in university to basically leave. You don't really need to attend every lecture, but of course there's this thing of having attendance. Like, you need to have around 75% attendance for most of your courses. So normally in a day while being there, the lecture is only around 45 minutes, or around maybe 2 hours at most, then an hour break, then a crit is only an hour. Like, it's, of course you might be there at school for the whole day for 5 hours waiting for your session. Let's say maybe you had a lecture from 10 to 12, but your crit sessions might be at 4 o'clock. So in that time being, you have basically free time to do whatever you want, but it'll be smart to actually work on other stuff because you literally have no time to screen. Basically, you can spend time talking to your friends and everything and actually working with them like we do. Like, one thing which a lot of architecture schools have is studio culture. So basically each year or each class gets their own studio where they can work together on the weekends, basically on any day where you can come with your friends, you can play music. We have a nice projector where we sometimes watch movies. During the Rugby World Cup last year, we actually watched the game live because we stayed over the night. Like, we watched the game around 10 o'clock. So it's very nice. You can even eat there. It's not like, in high school sometimes they don't even allow you to eat in class or something. So it's a lot of freedom. That's a nice part about it. So yeah, it's really about spending the day socializing with people. That's what you're going to be doing the most. And that's how the degree is also going to be in the future. Like, when you're working a job, you're going to be talking to clients, you're going to be talking to your other colleagues and everything. So this is also very important. I want you to know about things which are not that nice or things which you're probably going to dislike. These are things which I dislike the most about this degree, which you should know about. I'm not going to lie to you. You're not going to have a life. You're going to be working on architecture every day this whole year until the holidays or until the end of the year. Every day, Monday to Sunday, you're probably not going to have a break. Maybe you might go to church on Sunday, maybe you might go out with friends for a few hours or with parents, but you're not going to have a life. You're going to be thinking about this course the whole time. I've had friends in this degree who have lost friends because sometimes your friends will be like, oh, so you think you're too cool for us, you don't want to hang out with us anymore. But it's not that you don't want to hang out with them anymore, you're just not going to have time to keep up with some of the relationships that you had in high school. Unfortunately, that's a part of this degree. And also, if you have a relationship with someone, I hope, not necessarily long distance, but I hope that you'll be comfortable and not spending as much time with them as possible. Or maybe better yet, you can actually work with them. Like, when you're working on your projects or something, you can sit with them while they do accounting or whatever degree they're studying. In some situations, people in this degree actually date each other, and one of our lecturers actually suggested that we date our own classmates because there will be this sort of understanding that I'm not going to have time for you. And when you don't have time for your partner, it doesn't mean that you don't like them, but it just means that you're busy. And someone in this degree might be able to understand that instead of feeling insecure or like feeling like you don't want them anymore. So yeah, that's one thing. Your relationships are probably going to suffer and you're not going to have a social life at all unless you're extremely organized. People like me are extremely bad at, well, have been extremely bad at time management, but I don't lie, I've gotten better after I've managed to adjust everything. I think it becomes much easier when you know how everything works, but probably the first 6 months are going to hit you like a train. Yeah, but you become better at it. So yeah, you need to sacrifice a lot for this degree, and the next thing which you're going to be sacrificing, like which I'm doing right now in this video, is sleep. You're not going to be sleeping much. You are not going to be sleeping much in this degree unless you are very good at organizing your time. And I think it gets better in third year. Like, I won't lie, during the last semester of last year in second year, I got better at sleeping. Like, I started averaging around 6 hours of sleep compared to what I used to do, like around 3 hours in first year, because I was so unproductive. I got distracted too easily. But once you start cutting out distractions in your life, that's when it becomes much easier to manage your time and actually be productive. So yeah, just expect to not sleep, especially if you're on social media, especially when you're addicted to TikTok or YouTube or whatever. You're probably not going to sleep.